So let's talk about the narratives and the conversations coming out of this before we get to our quarterfinal first thoughts. There was a lot of angst about those two group of five teams participating at all, which to me, it sort of felt like there were just people who did not want to watch those games. Like
Yeah.
they were like, those are going to be blowouts. I don't want to watch them. I am not interested in these teams and what they are, what their rosters look like just what I believe they are on paper. And then there was something that was different where like last year you had 4 blowouts in the first round. This year you only had 2, but again, you had 2 with those teams in them. And then
Right.
I don't even think the other 2 games were all that great watches. Like it wasn't like, the Miami and A&M game was close, which made it an instant classic. It was close because people were making mistakes. It's
Yes.
kind of ugly. Like the play calling was questionable. Alabama, Oklahoma was definitely the best game of the group because it was thrilling and you had a 17-point lead that got erased and all of these things. But again, we talked about the missed tackles and the kicks and all the different things that were happening in that game that was sloppy. So I kind of just feel like the first round was forgettable as a whole. Like that's kind of where I am. And I know that everyone's kind of wondering like, hey, is the CFP broken because of the G5 participation? I push back on that because again, you're never going to have 2 group of 5 teams in it again. Like that was the ACC's fault for that.
Right.
But I could see the push in the off season for like, they need to be ranked in the top 12 or the top 14, whatever the number of if it goes to a 16 team field or whatever it is, they need to be ranked in that to get a spot. Like I could see there being like a floor set and parameters around group of 5 access. But to me, it's just kind of hard to guard against blowouts in a first round where you are giving home field advantage to the higher ranked teams.
Right.
So like the 5 seed, which by the way, Oregon could potentially have been favored over some of the teams that got buys if they were to play. But so you have a 5 seed against a 12, no matter who is going to be with the game at the home site for the 5 seed. Of course they're expected to win, and they're expected to win by a lot. Like I understand the line could look different than 21 points going into the game, but like you're already putting that advantage on the higher seeded teams with the home field advantage. So you're going to run the risk of potential blowouts or lopsided games with that because you are giving an advantage to a team that is the better team, or at least in the committee's eyes. So all that to be said, Joshua, is the CFP broken? Is the first round broken? Is there anything that can be done to change it? I know you have some thoughts about the G5 teams as well.
I do. So I guess I would start with this. Like 2 years into this expanded playoff, the first round has really largely not delivered.
Right.
And that to me is an indication that we've got too many damn teams in this thing, right? I know it's never going back. So I should probably stop whining about it. But I feel like we are playing these games because TV people said we should, and not because we actually have enough teams that are competitive to win a title. And I think that's where I would start with this whole thing. Like, put the G5 in it, put them out of it. There are not 12 teams in a given year that are all teams that can win a title, period. So I think that's one of the biggest flaws of this college football playoff.
Quick question though. Do
Yes.
you think that in other playoffs and postseasons, every single team that makes them can win a title?
No, but I would ask the question, have we shifted from college football where I think we in the past had completely decided that not everybody could win, and our goal was to have the best teams competing to win the title? Have we shifted now to we want more teams included regardless of their ability? And that changes and this is a semantics thing, that changes from a playoff to me to a tournament to an invitational, right? Like I think there's a difference between what a playoff is trying to do and what a tournament's trying to do. A tournament's its own championship, right? Like it's its own thing. The playoff to me is the cap to the season, the postseason that is trying to find a champion for the season.
Yes, but I would argue that is an invitational. It was a 4-team invitational, and now it still is, because like a playoff to me is something where like you earn your way in, which like there's spots for a division champ. wild cards. Like there's things where like it's not a human element. But I see your point. And I think that I always say to you, like, it's okay because the best teams will be there later on. Like, they fixed the seeding, which means that we're not going to have that quarterfinal round we did last year where theirs were also blowouts in that level and not good games there. Like, these games should be really high quality. And then we should have some really high quality semifinal games because the best teams will be there at the end. So to me, that argument of like, well, it's too big of a field, it works itself out because you get better games later on. I think
I don't
no,
know.
I know what you're saying. You
I love
shouldn't
the
have to play
idea
those games
of having to, yes.
Yeah, I know, and I understand that. And like injuries, all of that stuff is very real. But like I watched the NFL playoffs last year, and like all of the first weekend were blowout games. And people don't make it a referendum against like the size of the NFL postseason.
I make it a referendum on the size of the NFL postseason.
Okay, you are one of one. You are one of one.
And I guess my point is like I don't want to be more like the NFL. I don't. I think that
I'm just saying for a point of comp where like people freak out. But people freak out about the college football postseason
because it's
and
different.
Some of the things that happen.
It takes away what has been college football. I think that's where the freakouts come in.
I think it's such a small sample size that people are overreacting year over year and acting like there's no context ever to any other postseason in
part of our fear as well. And our is the people who are freaking out. Part of the fear is like I said, the NFL, it's consumable. I don't think it's a better product than college football for what I like. Basketball, it's a fun tournament. It's a different thing than what I think we should be doing. And part of the fear is that we get further away from the things that we used to enjoy. Because now when people are having this conversation about how do you fix it, the conversation on Twitter, the suits in the background, what about 16? What about 20? What about 24? That is not a solution.
More teams is not gonna,
that's where I get bothered when I have the conversation. That's not a solution.
Well, right. Or it's just going to have more of these teams that are not capable of winning at all, just playing for longer. And like, again, I think there's value in like what it's doing for the full sport, right? Like, and I know you disagree with me, but like having more games that have stakes that are directly tied to CFP access in October and November, that's been one of the arguments that I have really latched onto about the G5. Like, yeah, okay, people don't want to watch this one game or two this year, that they don't want to watch this Saturday in December. But it made like hundreds of games relevant. And we were following the American race with bated breath. And you're following all of these other games. Listen, I see you rolling your eyes. I see the reaction. But I'm saying like, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like we've had this conversation a lot. The goal of expanding from 4 to 12 was not the same as the goal when it went from 2 to 4.
No doubt.
That was 2 to 4 was to make sure you were not leaving out a team that could win a national championship. Yes. And your team, the first year of the playoff, validated that, right? So
my team benefited twice. The last year, the watching my alma mater last year, they were a beneficiary of expansion. The last two titles for Ohio State, 100%. I'm with you.
So, but my point is that this one was to allow a team like Ohio State mulligans, to allow that for the teams with the best rosters, and then to include more people, to make it national, to include paths. And I will admit it, right? Like it was set up for a different world. It was set up for a stronger G5 when Cincinnati and UCF and those teams were in the G5 and not in the Big 12. It was set up for a world with the Pac-12 as a fifth power conference, and that Oklahoma and Texas would be coming through the Big 12, and it wouldn't be all SEC, all Big 10, and like 1 or 2 spots for everybody else. So I agree. I'm open to the idea of doing something totally different. But I'm telling you that like the goal was not to say like every team that makes a 12-team playoff is can win a national championship. Like we all knew going into that was not going to be the case.
Why did we do it? I'm totally there with you, but
I'm telling you why. There's too many other like interests.
There's
that
just,
like if you write everybody off, but if you write everybody off after week 2 of the season, then and tell everybody because everyone talks about the playoffs.
Is so crazy to me because I don't know how we got there. Like it was at some point basically like toward really after I left, because my senior year we played lost to Michigan State. Thought we were going to be back in the playoff, and we ended up playing in a Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame, and nobody was even thinking about not playing in that game.
That changed pretty quickly though. Like and then
and that's what I'm saying.
Changed, it just like it was never going to come back. Now you had teams stopped out of bowl games.
I know, but this sport used to be a sport where there were people that like decidedly they were like, we can win a title this year, and that was their thing. There were other teams that were like, conference title is probably what our ceiling is, and hopefully we can get a New Year's Six. And like that was that.
I know,
And then
but
there were a
now
whole bunch of teams that were happy to go bowling. And people started telling people that, oh, you know what, if you're not in the playoff, it doesn't matter. And that bothers me because we've gotten to this weird spot.
I don't think it's just on the media. I agree that like it's
Oh.
playoff or bust, but like
Oh no.
that. No, I agree. No, listen, I don't
Like
think it's just on
we
the
keep
media, but
doing
that
this thing where
definitely
we're like,
happens.
oh, what games matter this weekend? The games that have playoff implications. And I would argue that when guys are suiting up and they're putting on their gutchies and they got their helmets strapping up, the games matter because they're playing
No,
the
they
games.
do. No, so listen, I'm gonna say the media stuff did matter. I did a story on ESPN and the way that they were doing playoff or bust, and this was before it expanded. And they were like, yeah, we need to tone that down. Like, we need to make sure we're talking about more teams and all this stuff. Because remember the commercials, who's in? Like, it was like the only
It's
talking
crazy.
point. And also, then you also had a period of time where it was like only the same few teams. So you had like 6 teams that were making it year over year. And it was like you're only talking about like 8 total teams in the sport the whole season. And oh my God, the construction, those guys are right outside my window.
It's all
right
good.
They're literally, I see them. Like, what? Can we go anywhere else in the building right now? Anyway,
Nope,
so my point is that is absolutely part of it. But then I think also you have Indiana coming out of nowhere to make the playoff.
Right.
And like now everyone thinks that they should. Like it definitely is like there's an internal piece of it now where people are like, well, if they're doing it, we should be able to do this.
I know. I think it's really unfortunate how we have basically we've distilled the sport down into the one thing, and we don't even have a New Year's Six structure that makes sense to me anymore. And people are just like, they're trying to act like these bowl games are not things that should be celebrated. Like imagine being Western Michigan and you had a great year in the MAC, and then you go out there and put belt ass to somebody in a bowl game, and there are folks that are out there that are like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like that absolutely matters.